Hi, I'm Melinda Van Fleet, and welcome to the Good Karma Success Coach podcast. I'm an author, speaker, and success coach who helps women believe in themselves, build confidence, and take action. In 2009, my husband Ryan and I were laid off at the same time, and we moved to the Florida Keys without jobs, not knowing anyone, hardly any money, and we never even been here. But we made it. And now, not every day is sunshine and rainbows, but we're living our best lives. All along in our journey, I've always said that someday when we get our shit together, we will help others. So each week, my intent is to be relatable and bring you tactical tips, tools, share my learnings and stories that can help inspire or transform you wherever you are in your career or general life and make an impact. I strongly believe that if I can do it, you can do it too. So what's stopping you? Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Good Karma Success Coach podcast. My name is Melinda Van Fleet, and I am super excited and grateful that you joined me today because I have such an incredible guest who I could talk to for hours and hours and hours. I actually had to just stop our conversation so we could get this podcast going because she is an amazing person and so freaking smart. It just blows my head off. So her name is Anne Smyth, and she's a certified life design coach and human design advisor. She helps people seeking to leave the world of grind and hustle behind them and help them design the lives they love completely on their terms. And Anne believes that if you have a desire in your heart for your life, you have the responsibility to allow it into your life. So welcome, Anne.
Hi, Melinda. Thank you very much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, so awesome. Thank you. So if anyone out there is already someone who listens to my podcast, you might have already heard episode 122, where I dip my toe into my human design chart. And it's really just kind of topside. And it's funny because at the end of the podcast, I said, if anyone out there is an expert and would love to be on the podcast, I'd love to have you. And as my luck would have it, little breadcrumbs led me to Anne. A fellow columnist, Danielle, led me to Anne. And here we are today. So that is just super fun and exciting. So I'm going to toss it to Anne, where she can share her background and what got her into her field that she's in.
Thank you, Melinda. I just want to say the things that you're saying there, it's classic generator that you're talking about, following the breadcrumbs. It's exactly the language that a generator should be using, and understanding that that's all they have to do is follow the breadcrumb in front of them with the universe and implement their strategy of responding and saying more of this, universe, or less of this if it doesn't feel good. So you naturally, from what I know of you so far, is that you kind of really live in your design, which is really, really lovely to see. And back to that podcast that you spoke about, I'd highly advise anybody to listen to it, because what I loved about it was that, you were very honest in terms of, I'm just, researching what's out there and seeing what's in it. And that's exactly what human design should be. Take what resonates, leave the rest, and understand that the language is very specific to human design, but sift through the things, see what feels right, and understand it, because it's a very, very unique experience for each of us. So I would highly recommend for others to do that. But onto myself, as I said in the intro, I'm trying to save the world, probably one corporate escapee at a time, having been one myself. And, I got onto the treadmill of life, and it was, very automatic. Like for all of us, you go from year 1 to year 2, year 3 in school, and the next step is just in front of you. And then when you get out into the big bad world, you've lost so much connection with your body and all of the wisdom inside of it that we're kind of really born with when we come on to planet Earth as this pure positive energy. And for me, I suppose I had the gift, looking back now, of a very toxic work environment, a misogynistic boss, and all of those good things that really made me kind of stop and really listen to everything my body was telling me. I had anxiety, which, I went to the doctor and said, I've eaten something funny. And I thought there was something wrong. And she said, no, you have anxiety. And the more that I kind of listened to that wisdom in my body, the more I realized that I was absolutely miserable and I needed to step away from that world. And I did, and I kind of followed my heart. And I made a mistake as well. Then I started listening more to my head. And from a logic perspective, I decided I would set up a wedding planning business, jump straight to action without tuning back into that body and telling me, no, girl, you've always wanted to be a coach. You need to pursue this. And I set up a wedding planning business. I enjoyed it. I earned money in it. It was a great project for me and my mum, but because she was like the perfect hype girl and I was like the real project manager moving things along. So soon enough, then I got back to listening to that body and decided, okay, I need to follow this breadcrumb that I have to coach. And I went back into coaching and became certified. And then human design kind of fell into my lap. Like you, it's something that came into my sphere, and I started to get a little bit of interest in it, and I started to implement the little things that I learned, and I started to see big changes in my life. And it just became so aware to me that, all of this wisdom is inside of us. It's in our system. It's in our bodies. It's, the issues are in the tissues. It's all there. And I should be using it as part of one of my tools to really help people harness and connect back to who they are. Because for me, I suppose the journey through life is how willing am I to get back to that pure positive energy as I go down the path of life and towards the end of my life. So human design gives me a lovely framework for unlearning all of the things that I've been conditioned to believe, to think, to feel, any of the fears that I have, that kind of were given to me in a very loving way. They weren't those things, those thoughts, those beliefs, those fears were done in a very loving way. But they're perhaps not mine. I've inherited them over a long period of time. So human design is a great sifting tool for what belongs to me and what doesn't.
Yeah. Oh, and so well said. That's amazing. And what are you? Because I know we're going to kind of dive in. Mm-hmm. I'm a 3-5 generator. So if someone doesn't remember from episode 122 or doesn't know me yet. So there you go.
Yeah. And I'm a 6-2 emotional manifesting generator. Okay.
Yes.
So kind of, I suppose, the difference kind of between the two of us, as a generator, you are the idea realizer. You're the one that gives life to ideas. You should follow what really excites you, and you have to notice what excites you. Some of generators' unlearning or deconditioning is that because they're really good at getting things done, they're amazing on teams, they're amazing friends, they're great for kind of moving everything forward, they obviously then are the most reliable person around, so they can kind of get a lot of things dumped on them. I'll give this to Melinda because I know she'll do it. Maybe I'll reach out to Melinda to do that for me. So for generators, it's really important that they kind of, and it's part of their karma, is to have that awareness of, I will only say yes to things that genuinely light me up. And it's okay and it's safe for me to say no. I don't always have to be the person that everything falls on my shoulders. So when you are doing something you really love, generators are just magnetic.
Yeah. Wow. And I feel that too. I remember when I first saw my chart and my one of my mentors kind of just gave me that top side. I just felt so connected to it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is just amazing. But then, learning to apply the different I would say aspects. I don't know if that's the right word that you would use, Anne.
Yeah, it probably is, because I suppose if we just take a step back from it, really what we all are as beings is we have kind of this aura around us, and kind of your aura introduces you. So when you walk into a room, it's your aura that other people are feeling. And the thing about it is your aura expands and expands and expands, and is just juicier for everybody else. The more that you are kind of really living in your design and really living kind of the nature of a generator, and kind of losing that conditioning and kind of understanding that I'm just going to do what excites me and I'm just going to follow it and respond to the universe and say, I love this, I don't like that. Your aura will just kind of expand, and it just makes you so magnetic to kind of capture everything that you're calling into your life.
Wow. That is very cool. Now, we briefly talked and we didn't get into this nugget. So I'd love for you to share, because this is something I don't know much about. You said something to the likes of, when you learn to utilize the strategy and authority to, is that, Can you explain that? Because when I'm going to put the link for people to pull their chart if they don't already have their chart. So when you get your chart, then listen to this piece, go back and listen with Anne so you can kind of understand what she's talking about.
Yeah. So I suppose there's two, if anybody is going to implement anything from human design, the main thing, like, and actually you can kind of really be in your design by just living your strategy and your authority, taking note of what those two things are for you. So the strategy first is kind of how you take action, how you kind of manifest, how you create things in your life, how you be as such, and kind of, I suppose, when you don't know what to do, you should do what your strategy tells you to do. If you have confusion around that. And then the other one is the authority, which is kind of your inner decision-making process. So it's how do I decipher whether something is the right thing or the wrong thing for me, okay? Interesting thing about and why it's probably really important to harness the strategy and authority is fear, as we know it, is the one thing that will always get in the way of strategy and authority. So the more that I master my strategy and my authority, the smaller and smaller and smaller I make the influence that fear has over my life. Mm-hmm. And, I get kind of that acronym of fear, false evidence appearing real. It's kind of grates with me a little because it's a bit simple, but actually when you sit back and you think, it's like, yeah, it's true. The evidence in front of me is not true. It's not how I'm supposed to be living my life. So we shouldn't be giving into fear. Fear grapples with our strategy and authority because it wants to be the leader in our life. So the more that we really live our strategy and make decisions by our authority, the more and more we kind of step more towards love, a being of love than in a state of fear.
Gotcha.
So for strategies, I suppose for you as the strategies are the same for, you're a pure generator. There can be an emotional generator. Either way, both of them have the same strategy, which is to respond. And it's also the same strategy for a manifesting generator, which is what I am. Okay. And so by responding, it's how do I respond to life? So life, the universe, divine, God, whatever you want to call it, big magic, gives you experiences, gives you tastes of things, and you have to respond to, you say, I really liked this. I really liked this experience. More of this, please. Or if you didn't like it, it's perfectly okay to say, I didn't like that, universe, less of that. Thank you very much. There's nothing wrong with kind of saying no to things. There's probably more power in that as well. For projectors, it's a bit trickier for them to kind of get familiar with their strategy. It's wait for invitation and recognition. And I often think of a projector client that I have, and she would often email me every now and again and say, I'm sitting on my couch waiting for the invitation. And it's like, no, don't take it literally what the words mean. It's like by wait for the invitation, it is what they have, and recognition. They have to be recognized. They have a really unique way of seeing the world. They make amazing leaders. They're almost like Yoda in the corner who are just there to solve, to tweak, to make things better, to, because they're not energy creators, they penetrate energy. So if you and I, by just going about our lives, we're constantly generating energy. Projectors don't do that. So it's really important that they manage their energy, or else they can push themselves to exhaustion. So as a result, they're particularly good at tweaking and making things super efficient, because they know I have to be really careful with my energy. So and because they have such a unique way of looking at things, that has to be, and they're almost like the mic drop in the way that they say things, or the way that they deliver how things should be done. So people have to recognize in them that this person has something really special to share, and then they would say things like, "Explain to me how you came to that idea," or "Explain to me how you came up with that concept." And that is when a projector feels really, really juicy. If a projector has a really unique way of saying things and they just blurt out what they want to say, so they don't wait for the invitation, it will feel like a smack in the face because it's so special what they're saying. If the person that they're delivering it to is not ready to receive that information because their energy is piercing to the core, it'll feel like it's being thrown right back at them. So projectors have a lot of deconditioning to do around, because as children, they naturally knew that they had this inside of them. And, it can be difficult for a parent to hear a 4-year-old say, you should do it this way. And for the parent to say, you're 4, how do you know how to do it better than me? So they can, the child hears your opinion doesn't matter. So then they stop offering, and they kind of don't, they kind of make themselves smaller because it gets thrown back in their face. So that's projectors. Then for manifestors, it is to inform. And that means that kind of they have like the big ideas, the creators, they initiate projects, they have to embrace their bigness, but they need a generator like you to kind of see the project all the way through for them. So for them, when they inform, they just kind of have to kind of announce, I'm doing this big thing and you're either getting on board or you're not. And they kind of don't suffer fools lightly. Like they won't be saying, oh, get on board with me with my big idea. They're kind of on the train is going, and you're either getting on it or not. For me as a manifesting generator, I'm more manifester than generator. And again, this was just something with human design, was when I started introducing a little bit of informing as a strategy as well as responding, things got a lot easier in my life, because I was making big life changes. I was leaving a corporate job. I was setting up a wedding planning business. Then all of a sudden I was becoming a coach, and everybody felt like thrown off into the bushes, as Abraham Hicks would say. And it was because I was like having this big idea, but my generator side was allowing me to see it through to fruition. But people felt then that I wasn't involving them because I wasn't informing them. So I just started introducing that strategy of, listen, I'm excited by this new thing at the moment. I can't say why, but I'm just going to follow the breadcrumbs. And what I'm doing by informing, using that little bit of strategy, I'm letting people either get on the train with me or not. And then they don't feel bad when I actually end up having created perhaps my coaching business or something like that. It's logical to them that, oh, well, she told us she was going to do that. Of course she's done it. Whereas what I was doing was setting up the business, doing all the work, and then announcing all of a sudden, oh, by the way, I'm open for shop and I've got 10 clients. And they were like, wait, what? So that informing sometimes for a manifesting generator can be very useful to bring on board as well. So look, and how you kind of know you're a little bit more manifestor than generator is your sacral, which is like the tummy one, the square around the tummy, is directly linked via a channel to your throat center, which is the manifesting center. So my sacral, where my desires are born, and I have a direct link to my throat to manifest them into my reality.
So it goes far up then, because go through.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's the kind of the classic sign of how you are more manifestor than a generator. That's how you can tell between the two. And then now I need to also, not only do I have to respond, I have to introduce just a little bit, like a little peppering of informing.
Wow.
Yeah. And I have to say, it made a big difference in my life in terms of my relationships with people close to me, because they did feel thrown off into the bushes because I was, going ahead with my life and I wasn't telling them what I was doing.
Yeah. Wow. That's really fascinating.
Yeah. Then the other one just is the reflectors, the real unicorn of the bunch. Is
that the smallest percent? What one of them is really small percent, right?
The reflector is the smallest percentage, but on top of that, each reflector is uniquely unique, even more so than you or I are as a unique individual. They're they're literally like a blank sheet of paper. They're like only 1% of the population. So I don't get them very often for readings, but when I do, I get super excited because,
You're like a mad scientist. I'm just kidding.
So for them, their strategy is to wait a lunar cycle. Okay, so it's just monitoring, and you can get great apps where they can monitor the lunar cycle, and it just means that they just kind of should really, they should just wait that time to kind of decide what they're doing with their life and how to take action and everything on it. So really unique. If you do come across one, they really are that blank piece of paper and a chameleon. They literally reflect what is going on, where the energy is at, what the vibe is in whatever situation they're in.
Wow.
But for them, because they're almost like a hologram stepping into situations, it can feel really weird. Like the way I kind of explain it to people is the centers when they're open, and that just means that they're white, they're undefined. Okay. So in terms of the centers, don't get hung up on the colors. The colors mean nothing, whether it's brown, whether it's yellow, whether it's red, it doesn't matter. It's either that it's colored in or it's white. But where you've got a white center, that's where we're open to receiving receiving energy, from other people. And we take that energy, and it's a bit like if you've got a diesel engine and all of a sudden you put petrol into it. And so let's say you let someone else's beliefs or someone else's fears enter through a center. And if you mix two fuels, what's the advice? Don't start the engine and don't start driving. You clean it out and then you can start driving is the right thing to do. But what we do is, because we're kind of always bumping up against each other as human beings, we let perhaps other people's emotions through the solar plexus, other people's fears, perhaps through the spleen, or other people's ideas through the head center, etc., and infiltrate our system. And then we start our own engines. And then we're wondering why we're going through the day feeling a bit yucky. So it's understanding, where have I let it in? What am I feeling? And how do I let it pass through me? How do I clean it out? So that would kind of be the main thing for people to understand as well with it.
So if someone has, let's say, 5 open centers versus someone else that has 2, like, what would you say is like a general synopsis as far as like, how would you kind of generalize that?
One is not worse or better than the other. They're both equally beautiful human beings who are absolutely perfect the way they are. They just, the way they experience and their humanness is different. And it's just that, be aware of the centers that you're open in and understand perhaps where you might let someone's energy in through that center, and be okay with, or have a system for letting that energy kind of pass for you. So let's look. So if I looked at your chart, for example, so you, if it's okay for me to share what you have.
No, that's really fine.
Yeah, undefined, you have the ego center, which is the motivation and will center. Okay, small little triangle to the right hand side of the of your G center, the big yellow diamond one in the middle, and that center is motivation and willpower. So that can come and go if it's undefined. You sometimes have lots of motivation, and sometimes you have lots of willpower, and sometimes you don't. Okay. Now, 70% of the population approximately have this undefined, okay? I have it defined. The likes of Tony Robbins, for example, has it defined. And when it's defined, I have consistent and persistent access to motivation and willpower. So I can keep going. And it's like, if you think of like that Tony Robbins or an event like that, or perhaps I think Oprah has it, you know, you're in those people's energy and they're at the event and they're saying, yeah, I can do it. I can do whatever I want with my life. And then they step away from the event 4 days later and they feel deflated. And they're thinking, why haven't I taken any action? Why haven't I done any of the plans that I said I would do? Why aren't I eating healthy like I said I would do? It's because they're no longer in the energy of someone who is kind of giving them the willpower, giving them the motivation. They're kind of borrowing it from that person by virtue of being in their energy.
Okay, that's like crazy and so opening, because think about it. Think about the diet industry, right?
Totally.
So if this correlates, and you use that as an example too. So
and
fascinating. Okay. Wow.
See, if it comes and goes and 70% have it. So let's say you and your husband, for example, let's say you both had that undefined. You may be on the way up on the wave in terms of motivation and willpower, and he may be on the way down. But you don't know where he is on his system. But if everybody around you is more than likely somewhere on that wave, it's easier for people to compare and say, oh my God, but that person's always up, or that person's always, motivated, that person's always, but you don't know that tomorrow they may actually be on the way down. And this is where we get this kind of hustle, this grind mentality, because everybody's looking at everybody and not understanding, hang on, where are they on their motivation wave or on their willpower wave compared to me?
That's fascinating.
And the lovely thing about this center, and in a way, I'm a little jealous that I have people who have it undefined like you, is because the wisdom for me of this center is that there is so much power in slowing down. Slow down to speed up. So with you, for example, you're a pure generator. So very much your sacral, the red square in the middle, your tummy. As a pure generator, you don't. It's this or that. It's very yes or no. You don't like lots of choice. So when you're kind of making a decision, you'd be saying, "Do I agree with this? Yes or no?" Okay, but you have a defined head and ajna center, so you have very good at forming your own beliefs, forming your own opinions, coming up with your own unique ideas. Okay. Now, we live in a world where we're very, very head-led, and I suppose really, if your listeners could see me now, I'm holding my hands up to the portion of my forehead and saying, we live in a world where we're driving with this 20% and we completely ignore the other 80%. So but that 20% is super strong. So your ideas and your opinions for you could be really, really strong, and they might override that voice inside your sacral, inside your gut, which is telling you, no, this is not the right thing. The beauty of having that motivation, it's like your safety mechanism, it will make you slow down, because what it wants you to do is decipher between, am I listening to my my sacral, or am I listening to my head right now?
And I've had a huge opening, awareness to this in the past month or so.
Great.
And it's been just a life-changing experience of discerning between the two. And we've talked about that a little bit. So
yeah,
amazing. Yeah, you're right.
And that's, again, really powerful. And again, that's just, if 70% of the population have it, that's just one small technique that everybody can give themselves, is the grace to slow down, because perhaps I'm missing something. Perhaps I'm listening to the wrong voice. So slowing down is by no means a passive action. It is very much an active action.
Yeah. Wow. That's a great way to look at it. And a positive from being an open ego center.
Definitely. The other one for you then, that is, your solar plexus is undefined then, which is the triangle to the right-hand side of your sacral, your tummy. And this is where emotions sit. And the funny part of this is that by virtue of you being undefined in this, you're called non-emotional. But by virtue of being a non-emotional person, it makes you highly empathetic, because you can let people's emotions in. So you can be cool, calm, collected, feeling totally fine, walk into a room and all of a sudden say, ugh, I feel yucky, what's going on? And that is the diesel going into the petrol engine. Your system's like, wait, what's happening here? So it's really important. Again, this is where, but as a generator, you have to be careful with the boundaries that you create, because people know you will get the job done and you will do it amazingly. So you have to say, well, I'm only going to do things that I feel good about. Also, then the boundary for you then is around people's emotions. So noticing it, letting it flow through you, and being like, that's theirs, what they're feeling. I don't have to lean into it. That's their experience, and it's just actually flowing through my system, and I just have to let it filter through till it's all nice and clean again. So really nice at night before you go to bed, just sit with it and say, how am I feeling in my body? I'm feeling good, or I'm feeling a little bit sad, or I'm feeling a little bit anxious. And then just think through your day. Who was I around? What stories did I hear? Where may I have let energy in? And then if you can kind of pinpoint the moment, you can say, okay, I know now that was Lucy down the road or something like that, and you can say, I don't have to feel this in my body. I can just let this flow through me tonight and kind of wake up back in my cool, calm, and collected state.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. And there's so many ways to look at that too, when I think of examples of my own day-to-day life. So you're right, I have to just kind of slow down and process that energy that's coming in.
Bingo. Again, that is where that motivation, and willpower, that allowing you to slow down so that you can have the time to process those emotions. The body it's so wise, and we should really be doing our best to to allow it to speak to us.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. So we chatted briefly because I know that we're going to have a part 2. I just announced it. We have so much more to cover, and we just cracked a little nut. So I would love for you to come back if that's possible.
I would love to. Thank you so much.
And then the next time we can talk maybe more about profiles or something. And then hopefully my audience, they're getting to know you and they've pulled their chart. So then people will be like, oh, I've got my chart. She's back. So that will be fun too. So how can everyone get hold of you? And I will absolutely put that in the show notes too.
Of course, yeah. People can look for my website, so www.annsmyth, ANNSMYTH.com, or they can find me on Instagram at AnnSmythCoaching with the same spelling. And on my website, there is a link to organize a consult or anything like that for anybody that wants to reach out. I don't know if you do it, Melinda, but if anybody does pull their chart, if they want to send in a question or two about their profile or about perhaps a center or their type, we can run through those next time as well. If that works.
Yeah, if they want to be, that's awesome and so generous. Okay, we'll use their charts as an example.
Yeah, because I think the profiles would be super interesting for people to learn about, because that really that's your naturalness. So when people hear their profiles, they're like, and that's what makes people really link with each other and feel like, I know why I connect with this person. It's probably because you may have the same profile as them, or again, there's learnings in the profiles as well that we can share.
Yeah. Well, this is fantastic. And I just think you have the most amazing way of taking this information, which is a lot, and really bringing it to a place of understanding and relatability. So I just think you're amazing. And I'm so grateful for you that I've met you and that you're on the podcast. So,
me too. Thank you so much.
That's awesome. So till next time, thank you, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. See you soon.
Thanks.